All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about something kind of wild. The hidden maps that our minds use to navigate the world. And these aren't just vague ideas, you know. They are powerful models that literally shape everything we experience and everything we can achieve.
So let me just start by asking you this. What if the reality you see isn't, well, real? What if it's just a story you've been telling yourself for so long that you started to believe it? And if that's true, could you, maybe, change the story?
In this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of it. The big idea is that reality isn't this fixed, solid thing out there. The raw data coming into our senses might be the same for everyone, but our brains are constantly filtering it, editing it, and presenting us with a final cut. It's that classic saying, the map is not the territory, and it's our brain that's drawing the map.
Okay, so that leads us perfectly into our first section. If our mind is basically a super advanced computer, can we actually figure out its operating system? And maybe, more importantly, can we learn to rewrite some of that code?
This is exactly where this field called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, comes onto the scene. And look, forget what you think you know about it being therapy or something. At its core, NLP is all about one thing: modeling excellence. The entire goal is to figure out the how. How does a genius therapist get amazing results? How does a top investor make brilliant decisions? It's about decoding their strategy.
So the premise here is, it's kind of bold, right? It says success isn't just random luck or magic. It's a strategy. It's a repeatable pattern. And NLP claims that if you can just decode that pattern, you can actually replicate the results. You can, in a way, install new, more powerful software directly into your own mind.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this stuff actually work in practice? Let's take a closer look at how these models try to map and even change our own internal world.
NLP basically offers this whole toolkit of language patterns designed to talk directly to your unconscious mind. So, for example, you have simple deletions. When someone says, "Recall a time you felt at ease," it forces your brain to search its own files and fill in the blanks. Then you've got nominalizations. This is a sneaky one. It's turning an action, like relaxing, into a solid thing, relaxation, that feels more real, like something you can actually have. And finally, it creates these cause and effect links, connecting two totally separate ideas until your mind just accepts them as true.
But, and this is a really, really big but, we have to hit the brakes here. It is absolutely crucial to understand that NLP is, well, it's hugely controversial. I mean, in a lot of scientific and academic circles, it's completely dismissed. They call it pseudoscience, arguing that its claims just can't be tested and there's no real data to back them up.
So this really shows us a fork in the road when it comes to these models of power. On one hand, you have the internal map, like NLP. That's all about reprogramming yourself. But then there's this other idea, the external map, sometimes called a social frame. This is totally different. It focuses on projecting a kind of energy out into the world that gets your environment to change around you. So NLP tries to change the map in your head, while this other way tries to make the territory adapt to you.
Now, to really wrap our heads around these hidden networks, we're going to take a pretty wild turn. We're going to step away from the human mind for a minute and look deep into the natural world, because there's an incredible living metaphor right under our feet.
You've got to hear this. The incredible mycologist Paul Stamets, he calls the huge fungal networks in the soil Earth's natural internet. But he goes even further. He doesn't just see biology. He's suggesting something way more profound, that this network is sensitive. And as you can see from this quote, he even thinks it might be sentient.
And the scale we're talking about is it's mind-blowing. In a single cubic inch of soil, like a space you could pinch between your fingers, there can be over 8 miles of these fungal cells. It's a massive, invisible, biological superhighway. And this is where it all clicks. This is the metaphor. Just look at the designs side by side. On one side, you have the mycelial network connecting an entire forest. On the other, the neural network that creates consciousness in your brain. The blueprint, this branching, interconnected, decentralized web, it's shockingly similar. You gotta wonder, is this just nature repeating one of its best ideas?
Okay, this brings us to what might be the most critical part of our whole explainer. We've seen these powerful models, right? These maps of the mind and the world. But what is the real power and what is the real danger of actually trying to use them?
I mean, let's just use Tony Robbins as a case study. He is world famous for using NLP modeling with, as he says, an absolute commitment to getting results for people. But at the same time, he's hit with heavy criticism. Some people describe his events as just being very long infomercials that prey on people who are vulnerable and struggling. It's the perfect example of how these models can be seen as either life-changing or deeply problematic, depending on who you ask.
To really understand this, we need a tool. And that tool is a logical fallacy called reifying. It sounds fancy, but the idea is actually super simple. It's the mistake of treating a model, an abstract idea, a map, as if it's the real concrete thing. It's, you guessed it, mistaking the map for the actual territory.
And look, this mistake, it has real-world consequences. It's how a useful NLP technique gets twisted into a magical cure-all instead of just being a tool. It's how a powerful social frame can morph into straight-up narcissism. And it's how we start to believe some conspiracy theory explains everything. We forget that every single map, by its very definition, is just a simplification of a much, much more complex reality.
You know, one of the most powerful reasons people fall for a bad map is something you could call the romantic rebel fallacy. It's this really seductive idea that a theory must be true for no other reason than because it goes against the mainstream. It's a powerful story that makes a model feel heroic and special, even if there's zero evidence to actually back it up. So, where does all of this leave us? We've looked at internal maps, external frames, and the very real dangers of confusing these models with reality itself. So how do we choose which way to go? Let's circle all the way back to a pre-mind-bending idea from quantum physics. The theory suggests that on the tiniest level, particles exist in a cloud of all possibilities at once, right up until the moment they're observed. It's the act of observation itself that seems to collapse all that infinite potential into one single, concrete reality.
Now, if you think about it, that idea completely changes our role in the universe. It means we're not just sitting in the audience watching everything happen. The very act of observing, of choosing what to focus on, of adopting a map to see the world, it makes us an active participant. You're not just watching the dance of energy, you're dancing too. So I'll leave you with this final thought. If your focus, your beliefs, the map you choose to follow is what helps shape reality out of a field of infinite potential, then the most important question you could ever ask yourself is, which map will you choose and what reality will you create with it?